All right, I believe this should be live. We should be connecting, or we should be live right now and connected. All right, guys, we got a whole slew of news to go through today, man. Today was actually a really, really exciting day. I was really happy to go through the news today. We have so much, and we have some very breaking news, okay? We have some news that just hit that the tariffs might, well, for now, there's a court battle happening between basically a federal judge or a federal court and the White House. So this is really exciting. This is breaking news. Again, this article that I have right now, it probably already got updated 3 or 4 times. I kept refreshing, and every time I refreshed, there was like a brand new paragraph added to this thing. So we'll see how it is. But we're going to be talking about Nvidia earnings. We're going to be talking a little bit about Palantir, and I'm going to give kind of my thoughts on this whole thesis for Palantir. Because, you know, it's starting to look more and more true that they are breaking into the financial services sector. That's where a lot of, you know, the money can be made. So I think this would be a really good tailwind for Palantir. So we'll also be talking about Nvidia, we'll also be talking a little bit about Tesla. All right, Elon Musk is in the news, and then we'll follow it up with some crypto, and then we'll do the market stuff. And of course, we'll end it off with a portfolio update. All right, so here we go. All right, so this is the quick high-level portfolio. And of course, you guys know that at the end of the stream, I will show you guys my full portfolios and we'll do a deep dive. This has not updated. Really, this should be a lot more because, you know, for my Robinhood portfolio, it spiked really fast in value, you know, within the last couple of hours, which is kind of crazy. So I see in the chat, we have Alex. So what's up, Alex? Hey, welcome back. And we have Senpai, strategies over spreadsheets every day of the week, bro. And of course, you know, as I say, profits over screenshots. That's not really what I say. I take screenshots. All right. So portfolio still down a bit. All right. I think we're down about 23,000, 22, you know, really once it's updates, it'll probably be in the 15s, you know, 15 to 20 range. But, you know, we're looking good. We're looking good. Still hopeful. And I think once this news really starts to get digested, you know, regarding the tariff stuff, I think the market is really going to pop green tomorrow. We'll see. This creates a little bit of uncertainty, but I think more investors would be happy with tariffs being lifted more than anything. All right. So this is the article. It just came out. All right. As you guys can see, 7:52. I'm sure if I refresh it right now, the time right now is 9:02 Eastern Standard Time. But for me, it's 8:02 a.m. So this article, again, just hit, and we're going to just go through it. So court strikes down Trump reciprocal tariffs. Okay. A federal court struck down President Trump's reciprocal tariffs in a ruling on Wednesday. A 3-judge panel said the president exceeded any authority granted by the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The suit was brought on behalf of 5 U.S.-based businesses that rely on imports. All right. A federal court ruled Wednesday that President Donald Trump exceeded his authority with his reciprocal tariffs, dealing a blow to a major tenet of the president's economic agenda. The judges wrote that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 law that Trump invoked in order to basically tariff the whole world does not actually give the president the power to implement the sweeping duties initiated last month. All right. They go on to say that the worldwide and retaliatory tariff orders exceed any authority granted to the president by IEEPA to regulate importation by means of tariff. The judges wrote the trafficking tariffs fail because they do not deal with the threats set forth in those orders. All right, the ruling continued. The Trump administration, of course, is going to appeal this. You know, Trump is always appealing stuff, so this is no different, right? So I think what this is it's going to get stuck up in the courts. It's going to take some time for the courts to actually go through this. But, you know, in the meantime, we'll probably still have the tariffs, but this gives Trump at least a little more time to work on those trade negotiations. This honestly could also backfire because I think that the other countries we're doing trade negotiations with, they're going to look at this and be like, oh, interesting. Maybe we don't really need to give up a whole bunch of stuff because the things he's doing is illegal. Who knows, right? But it's I think this is coming at almost the wrong time because there's a lot of deals that should be getting announced here in the next month. All right, so this couldn't have come at a worse time, but this also might be a good thing. Again, we got to wait and see. All right. Just a little more, the suit was brought on behalf of 5 U.S. businesses that rely on imports. To some extent, the judges said that the tariffs orders were unlawful to all, not just a plaintiff, so there would be no question here of narrowly tailored relief. The judges ordered the challenged tariffs to be vacated and their operation permanently enjoined or, whatever, stopped, right? So this is, again, breaking news. This just came out. And this is crazy. Like, this is really crazy. They're a little too late, to be honest, to come with this. A little too late to the game. I mean, the tariffs already happened, more so or less. And not only that, there's already a lot of nations in trade talks with the Trump administration. So, again, I think this is probably going to have some of those other nations kind of like looking at this really carefully, because if they don't have to give up anything and if they can keep the deficit, then whatever. But if the trade agreements, are good and a net positive for both, trade partners, then maybe they'll just go through with it anyways. But I would be, if I was one of those other trade partners and, I'm trying to use this as leverage over the Trump administration, I think that would be a huge backfire. I think that would absolutely backfire, because if the administration appeals this and wins, then, probably swifter, harder, harsher things will come about. So a lot of, it's all politics. All right. And I get that, politics and finance intersects. All right. We're not here to vote blue or red or talk which one's better than the other. We're just using the news to basically help us as investors, walk the path that's basically in front of us, right? We're just, walking at whatever's in front of us. So just really exciting. This, again, when this came out, I had just uploaded everything, and then I saw this big red banner and I was like, holy crap. So this is, again, breaking news. I'm just curious if we refresh it, if there's anything new. 752. All right, 752 updated. So there's been no new updates as of yet. They added some things, but yeah, no real new updates. So again, this is really, really crazy news right now. I see check it out in the chat. Hey man, welcome back. All right. So moving on to Nvidia. This is just a quick video that we're going to watch for Nvidia. Again, Nvidia just had earnings, and listening to these earnings, just makes me even more, I don't want to say hopeful, but more excited to invest into Nvidia. And honestly, I might even invest a little bit more, but we'll see. Let's listen to this.
All right, so give me the roadmap. I mean, you laid out $1 trillion. Obviously, I think that was an arbitrary number, because if you said $3 trillion, no one would believe you. But 2 years from now, what's going to be? 1 year we did this. What happens 2 years from now? I mean, do we find out we needed 10 times the 10 times?
Yeah, we're going to need a lot more computing. And we're fairly sure now that the world's computing capex, it's on its way to $1 trillion annually by the end of the decade.
So what he's saying is that, in order to power AI, artificial intelligence, we're going to need a lot more compute. We're going to need a lot of more hardware, a lot more GPUs, right? And eventually the capex, capital expenditures, that is, how much money that companies will have to sink into either their hardware, their infrastructure, in order to, use artificial intelligence. All right. So he's predicting basically $1 trillion. There's been other studies that have coming out saying that basically the same thing, that it's going to be $1 trillion market cap, probably very soon. Well, not market cap, but $1 trillion capex very, very soon. There's going to be so much money flooding into artificial intelligence in all ways, shapes, and forms. Energy, hardware, infrastructure, and the actual software, language learning models.
So we're fairly certain of that. We're also very certain that the vast majority of that will be used for AI. And so our opportunity as a percentage of $1 trillion by the end of this decade is quite large. And so we've got a lot of infrastructure to build.
Then when I ask you will gross margins get better and the yield get better, am I asking questions that are just Lilliputian and I shouldn't waste my time? Or there are people that I recommended your stock to when it was at 2 and own it, don't trade it, and I want to stick by that. But is that, again, too small?
If our company wasn't growing, then Obviously, gross margins is a real area of focus. But we're growing incredibly fast. And this year, we reinvented the structure of a computer. And I was explaining that at the GTC keynote yesterday.
So just real quick, for our non-tech audience, what he means by restructuring a computer, back in the day, I say that loosely, but you needed like an Intel chip or an AMD chip, right? With a motherboard, some RAM, and maybe a GPU by the same manufacturer, either Intel, AMD. That was it, right? You could plug in, for desktops, you could plug in an Nvidia chip or an Nvidia graphics card. But now, Nvidia is coming out with their straight full Nvidia desktop or Nvidia laptop, right? It's just strict Nvidia all the way through, right? Their own CPU, their own GPU, their own hardware, their own laptop, their own desktop. So it's really, really exciting. They're basically, they basically don't need to go to Dell or HP. Well, actually, I take that back. I think they're using Dell and like HP and those other manufacturers to basically sell their product. But Nvidia is really it is really paving the way ahead of what hardware companies are going to do. So this is really exciting.
We reinvented how the computer is structured. And when we do that, and all of these companies are involved, and we created all of these parts necessary, 600,000 parts that goes into one of our computers now. Right. It's 3,000 pounds. And I know, 600,000 parts, it's like 20 cars. Right. And so all of those components have to come in to build one computer. And we're building these computers in volume. And so the idea that in our first couple of quarters as we're ramping this up, we have to, improve our yields and improve our cost, and everybody is coming together and getting good at building this thing. I think that's a minor idea. Are we going to get incredibly good at building these things in the next several quarters? Of course.
Running Intel, who you praised in a video when you got, I don't know right now who may be working on something that could leapfrog you, but then I listened to you and I think, was it winner take all, losers take none?
This is the largest business opportunity in history.
Right here, this is the part. The largest business opportunity, all right?
In history. I think that we know now.
In history. Bigger than airplanes.
This is the
bigger
largest,
than trains,
that's right.
Bigger than canals, bigger than the loom.
None of those are anywhere close. Larger than the production of energy.
Well, then there's no reason why, given that, why can't your company be a $10 trillion company? There's no reason. These are abstractions. It's an abstraction, the price of your stock. And it's just, you have to understand, it's not a business.
It's really about the size of the opportunity.
Right.
And we are now talking about the single largest opportunity that the world knows.
The single largest opportunity that the world knows. We're talking about AI, artificial intelligence, the whole AI thesis. You have an entire administration, you have several governments putting a lot of money behind this. You have companies completely shifting their business models. You have so much going for this space, it's ridiculous. And there's so many companies out there besides Nvidia that you as an investor can profit from, right? You still have AMD, Lisa Su, amazing, smart person, right? If you like Nvidia, you can go with Nvidia. Palantir is a favorite of mine. You can go with Palantir. You have the semiconductor space. You have TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor. You have Broadcom. You have Marvel that's also starting to pop. You have all these other companies, including Tesla. You have Tesla that's obviously breaking into the space, or already broke into the space, I should say, or they own a good like a small little portion of the space. But you have so much opportunity right now. And I don't think that this AI space is going away anytime soon, right? Again, earlier this year, a lot of people were talking about Nvidia's cooked, Nvidia's trash, AI is trash, the bubble popped, China took over, this is all a moot point, data center demand's going down, no one's buying into data center theories anymore, no one's buying into the data center game, it's all cooked, right? And then now you had that whole Middle Eastern tour that happened, right? Drumming up investment, all these, huge countries that are also looking to build their own, data center campuses. Like, this is huge demand for not just Nvidia, but for other players as well. So again, if you want to still get in on this opportunity, I'm in agreement with Jensen that this is a very like big opportunity for the world. So us as investors, we can absolutely, take advantage of this, get in while it's still getting hot. So moving on.
Do it so people can let themselves
Which is the reason why every single company is here. And we have such incredible partnerships with the world's largest companies. And so one, it is an extraordinarily large opportunity. Two, it is incredibly hard.
Right.
It is just incredibly hard. The scale at which we do things and the amount of R&D that has taken to get here is incredible. So it's, and then I laid out a roadmap for the world.
Yeah, which no one
that's
does.
3 years
long.
long.
No one does. If I were a competitor, I'd say you just...
So real quick, he just laid out a roadmap at the last GTC where he was talking about where artificial intelligence is heading. It's a very fascinating roadmap. It's kind of over my head, to be perfectly honest. He keeps talking about these AI factories. So, I'm still like trying to fully understand and grasp the whole concept of AI factories. But, you can have your business, your physical like realm, and then you could have the digital realm of this, right? Your AI factory. And that's where you can either improve your work processes, your workflows. You can have your artificial intelligence help you. There's going to be all this stuff that's going to be in an AI factory. So a lot of interesting stuff happening in the space, guys. We'll move on from here. All right. So just checking the chat real quick. Michael Anthony, hey, welcome. Clove should be a major support. The company also raised its full year guidance, 2025 guidance, forecasting insurance revenue up to $1.8 billion and adjusted profits as high as $70 million. Excellent. I'm not familiar with Clove, so I'll take a look into that. Like Adden Carey says, I think Nvidia is a good company in general. Excellent. I'm in the same boat as you. Clove did make a profit of 5 cents when the street was looking for a loss insurance like HUM or UNH. Interesting. All right, moving on. Nvidia pops. Oops, I know you guys can't read that. There we go. Nvidia pops its Q1 results guidance tops expectations despite China controls. All right. So Jensen Huang led company reported fiscal first quarter results. Guidance had topped expectations despite the impact of the China controls. And just again, real quickly, the whole China control thing. Jensen could not ship any of his chips. Well, first he had a specific chip that he could send, which was the H20, the Hopper chip, right? And then came the tariffs, and then came, the licensing from the government and saying that you can't just export stuff, right? And I'm of the theory now that Jensen is probably looking at producing chips inside of China. It's not, public or anything like that. It's just a theory of mine. But what would stop Jensen or Nvidia from doing something like that, right? I don't think there's really anything that would stop them, as far as I know. And China does have a foundry of its own, similar to like TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor. They have SMIC, right? So it's like the semiconductor company of China or something like that. But it's they could start producing these chips for Nvidia. They could produce their own chips in China, and they wouldn't even have to worry about tariffs or export controls or anything, because all the chips are made in China specifically for China. So that would be an interesting theory. I think it holds some ground because, again, Nvidia just leased space in in China somewhere, I think Shanghai or something, and they're looking to build an office there. So I think, again, there's some points there that could come true. So we'll see. For the period ending April 27, the Jensen Huang-led company earned 81 cents per share on an adjusted basis. At the same time, revenue surged 69% year over year to come in at $44 billion. That is crazy. The breakthrough for their new supercomputer, the Blackwell NVL72 AI supercomputer, a thinking machine designed for reasoning, is now in full-scale production across system makers and cloud service providers. All right. Here's the kicker. Global demand for NVIDIA's AI infrastructure is incredibly strong. AI inference token generation has surged tenfold in just 1 year, and as AI agents become mainstream, the demand for AI computing will accelerate. All right, and we already know this. If you've been following NVIDIA, if you've been following the whole AI thesis, then you know that computing is going to be just in demand. You need hardware to power the software, which is the language learning models, right? So this is why NVIDIA is going to be one of the most, if not the most valuable company in the world. All right. Data center revenue jumped 73% year over year, coming in at $39 billion. Automotive And I'll show you guys a chart. So we'll just skip all this. Looking to the second quarter of fiscal 26, Nvidia expects to generate $45 billion in revenue, plus or minus 2%. So that was their new guidance. This includes a loss of approximately $8 billion in the H20 related revenue. Again, the H20 relating to export controls, to China, so they can't send their stuff. All right. Analysts were forecasting $45 billion in revenue. Shares of other semiconductor companies. All right. This is that list I was talking about, that other companies that can benefit from this AI thesis. You don't have to just invest in Nvidia if it's too expensive for you. You can look at other opportunities. You have AMD, right? You have ARM, you have ASML. ASML owns the lithography, basically owns the lithography sector. There's no other competitor there. Citizen of the Year, I don't know if he's in this channel right now, but he published a great video on ASML. I see we got a bigger channel in here. We got Retire on Dividends. What's up, brother? Welcome back. I know it's been a while. It has been an absolute while. I will come back to the comments here. I see they're starting to pop. All right. But you have other companies that can benefit from this AI thesis. TSM, Intel. Well, I don't know about Intel. I'm not a fan of Intel. If you are, good luck. Right. Slightly. Then you have SMCI, which is a huge partner for Nvidia. They're basically pumping out the hardware for Nvidia. So again, there's all these other companies that you can get into. And if you're into the, high yield space, you can always look at their high yield counterparts, right? You can look at their, leveraged counterparts. Entirely up to you, right? But I really think the AI thesis is still intact. It's still in its infancy. And we can see easily for the next 4 to 10 years that this space, this sector, it might even become its own thing, right? Its own complete own system or its own sector in like an S&P 500. I don't know. I'm just kind of speaking out of my butt, but I really am just excited about this space. All right, so let's move on. Hey, I appreciate that, Rod. Really do. Nvidia in the charts. All right, guys, let's look at this. Data center demand. Again, earlier this year, everyone was talking all this crap and nonsense about data center demand popping, Microsoft pulling out. This is honestly one of the reasons why I didn't pull the trigger on CoreWeave, which was a total mistake of mine. But you have Nvidia that is killing it with data center revenue. This is showing you that all these data centers, CoreWeave included, is buying up Nvidia chips like they're going out of style, right? So it's wild. You also have Nvidia Gaming, which, this fluctuates from year to year, so it's whatever. The other one, the other big one, oh, they don't have it in here. That sucks. Gaming data center. Oh, that sucks. Let me go back to this article. So right here, let's see. Automotive and robotics revenue for the period clocked in at $567 million, up 72% year over year. Who is buying all this up? The automotive companies, Tesla, right? To name one. You also have those other American manufacturers. You have other companies that are using Nvidia chips, right, for their cars. You have robotics companies. Again, Tesla is to name the big one. They have their Optimus robot. I don't know if it's using Nvidia chips specifically, but I do know that, Tesla, Elon Musk is on record for saying that they'll continue buying Nvidia chips as long as they make great chips, right? As long as Tesla doesn't start getting into the chip manufacturing business. So again, really, really cool stuff for Nvidia. All right. All right, let's move on, guys. Palantir is in the news. All right. You guys know I have a big position in Palantir, right? PLTW. So I'm a big fan. So anytime I see them in the news, I like to cover them. All right. So Palantir teams up with Fannie Mae in a push to sniff out mortgage fraud. For those who are probably not familiar with who Fannie Mae is or Freddie Mac, they're basically the supervillains that caused some of the 2009 great financial crisis, right? The subprime mortgage crisis, right? This is what led to the real estate crash. So these two knuckleheads are basically now under government conservatorship, and they're only allowed to do certain things. You could still buy their stock. Last I checked, you could still buy their stock. As a matter of fact, Bill Ackman of Pershing Securities, I think, or Pershing Square, whatever, he actually bought a huge position in one of these two companies. I forget which one. I think he did like maybe 50-50 to 2 or something like that, but he did buy them, and their stocks have been popping a lot recently because of all this talk of letting them get out of conservatorship and back into the public market. So again, these two knuckleheads were the cause of that, but Palantir teams up with them, right? Again, I spoke about this several times about Palantir breaking into the financial services sector. This is where the bread and butter is going to be. This is where they're going to make a ton of money. All right, not just government contracts. All right, they already teamed up with what was it, Société Générale in France, and they're making a ton of money from that. They're helping them weed out fraud and basically abuse or whatever, right, in the financial services sector. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of my thesis for this in just a second. Let me get through this little news article. An early test, all right, so basically a trial period, showed that Palantir technology, which includes elements of AI, could identify fraud in seconds that took human investigators 2 months. Fannie Mae CEO Priscilla Almodovar said. There we go. All right. Quasi-governmental financial firm Fannie Mae on Wednesday announced a partnership with defense tech player Palantir to detect mortgage fraud, deepening ties between the federal government and the company that has been a big winner in the second Trump administration. The goal is for the firm to identify fraud more proactively with the help of Palantir, starting with its multifamily housing business. I'm a real estate guy, all right? That's more or less my background. There's a lot of fraud in multifamily. So that is where a lot of, the people who will raise a bunch of investor money and defraud people and then basically take the money and run away. So that is really, really cool. I could see this starting to impact a lot of, investors, a lot of syndications, because this would actually probably be a good thing. Anyways, an early test showed that Palantir technology, which includes elements of artificial intelligence, could identify fraud in seconds that took human investigators 2 months to find. All right. This is just another use case for Palantir, right? You had big banks already saying this, that their software is making it so much easier for them. They can, and I hate to say this, but they can fire a good portion of their their workforce that would take, tens, hundreds, of analysts to do, and they can replace them with 2 or 3, right? I did a video on Palantir winning a Army contract earlier, was it last week? And basically showed that it used to be a room full of analysts, intelligence analysts, going through charts, maps, things like that, data points, all this stuff. Now you could just do it with 2 or 3 people using Palantir software, right? And it can identify targets. It can do all this really cool stuff, right? It's basically an RTS, right? It's basically like StarCraft or Command and Conquer on steroids, right? That's really what it is. It gives the commander that bird's eye view. So imagine a CEO having this kind of bird's eye view for his company and how it's operating and identifying fraud and all that other stuff. I mean, it's exciting, absolutely exciting. But yeah, Palantir is just on an absolute rip. The press release did not include a dollar amount that Fannie Mae would pay to Palantir for their service. Again, this could just be a trial period, a 7-day trial period. And then, they're going to be so stuck. They're going to love this software. They're just going to use it, and they're more and more financial services firms are going to start adopting Palantir. All right, the announcement comes as there is a push to potentially bring Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship and reestablish them as something closer to independent companies. All right, so again, really, really cool. All right. All right, I see we got some people making fun of me. France, all right, or France, all right? You guys can go kick rocks. All right, so here's the theory. Here's the theory for Palantir. And this is just my theory, all right? This is what I think. Financial services sizing the opportunity or sizing the sector in the global economy. This is from Investopedia, okay? The market estimates project that the financial services market is likely to reach $33 trillion by 2024, growing at a rate of 7.7% from the previous year, with global GDP expected to reach $109 trillion in the same year, blah, 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 right? So $33 trillion. If Palantir can break into this is the major sectors in the world of financial centers. All right. You already have Los Angeles, New York City, you have Boston, you have Washington, D.C., Chicago, San Francisco, right? So you have America. Let's just take America out. Where did Palantir just make waves, right? In the EU. All right. They just made waves. They partnered with Société Générale in Paris, right? They have Germany that's over there. They have Amsterdam, Zurich, Frankfurt, again in Germany, and Munich, right? London, I haven't heard of them doing anything in the UK yet, but I would not be surprised if they start wiggling their way over there, right? And of course, notwithstanding China, of course, because China has a huge financial services sector, but you still have Singapore, you have Australia, you have South Korea. I'm surprised Japan's not in here, but you also probably would have Japan, right? But you have all these other markets that Palantir could break into that's non-defense sector, that's non-governmental, right? Just strictly commercial. Now imagine if those governments, those US partners, those US, military partners start adopting the software just like NATO did. You have so much tailwind, so much demand for Palantir in the future, in my opinion. And this is why I'm very excited about Palantir. All right. So we're at minute 30. Let me try to get through the rest of the news and we'll get into the market segments. All right. So we have Elon Musk threatened to scuttle OpenAI UAE data center deal. I talked about a video yesterday from It's a Wealthy Life. It was titled, let me get it. Let me try to get it for you guys right now. Because it was a really well done video. I'm not going to lie. So this is the video. Elon Musk quite quits Donald Trump and MAGA, right? That was the video. But he was kind of right. It's a Wealthy Life is kind of right because this only confirms it, right? This right here confirms it. Not only is Elon Musk kind of disappointed in the big, beautiful bill, he believes that it's just going to add on deficits, continued spending by the government, which is going to, just put us further into debt. But here was another article. Because his own AI company, XAI, wasn't included in the discussions in the UAE, right? Was it UAE? Yeah, in the UAE to build a AI infrastructure data center in the United Arab Emirates. On a call with top officials at G42, the Abu Dhabi-based AI company spearheading the effort, Musk allegedly said that the deal had no chance of winning President Trump's blessings unless XAI was a part of it, right? He's trying to prop up XAI, get him out there, get him out in the world. But after Musk grumbling, the White House reviewed the deal terms, but still decided to move forward, all right? So this happened last week. Trump still went through. OpenAI ended up winning everything, right? They just went in and won everything. This is all about the whole Stargate project and everything else, right? White House officials told the newspaper that Musk opposed the arrangement because it would benefit Sam Altman, 100%, right? One official said Musk voiced his displeasure and relayed his concerns about fairness for all AI companies. Again, he's kind of throwing, I'm not saying this, I'm just saying what it's perceived to be. He's kind of throwing a tantrum and saying, why can't XAI be there too, right? But Sam Altman, OpenAI, they are the partner for the government right now. They are the absolute partner. The whole Stargate project is that partnership, all right? Musk was one of OpenAI's co-founders in 2015, and along with Altman was a co-chair. He left in 2018, claiming that continuing his affiliation with OpenAI would be a conflict of interest as Tesla was developing its own AI technology for use in self-driving cars. However, Altman has previously stated that Musk wanted to take over OpenAI, which the company board rejected, prompting him to leave. So now you have the jealous ex coming back, wants to take over, wants to own it, and there is an ongoing legal battle between OpenAI and Musk. So again, there is a divide. There is an absolute divide between Musk and the government, Musk and the Trump administration, and it's continuing to show because again, he's leaving Doge and he's going back to working 90, 100 hours at Tesla, basically bringing it back on track because hey, Tesla investors demand Musk work 40 hours a week at the EV maker as crisis builds, right? And this is coming from a bunch of investors that wrote a letter to him saying that you need to stop fiddling around in politic land and get back on track with Tesla because Tesla not only lost a lot of sales in Europe, they basically are losing the China market, right? BYD is taking over. They already took over. It's not even they are taking over. They already took over, right? Tesla is losing a lot of market share. But again, in my opinion, Tesla, it's not just a car manufacturer. They have so much going for them. They have battery tech that is next level compared to a lot of other people, right? They have really excellent battery technology, energy technology. They also have their AI, their artificial intelligence. They have a whole in-house data center. They also have robotics, right? The Optimus robot. Tesla is just a car for commercial use, for consumer use, right? You and I. And he's also doing the self-driving cars, unsupervised that could replace taxis in the future. So again, a lot going for Tesla as a company. But Elon Musk needs to spend more time at Tesla as his electric vehicle company faces a crisis, according to the letter on Wednesday from a group of pension fund leaders who manage investments in the company. Tesla stock price volatility, declining sales, as well as disconcerting reports regarding the company's human rights practices and plummeting global reputation are cause for serious concern, the investors wrote. All right. So again, more and more investors are kind of ticked that this is happening, that he let this happen, that he went off to go play in politic land. And then not only that, he went off to go do all of this stuff only for all the work that he did to be undermined by this big, beautiful bill, right? All this work of cutting the government force, all this work of looking for inefficiencies and improving, processes and things like that, all that for naught, because this big, beautiful bill is going to tack on $1 trillion for defense spending and then another trillion for a couple other things. So it's just absolutely crazy. I would definitely be pissed if I was Elon Musk, right? The investors want the Tesla board to require Musk to work a minimum of 40 hours per week at the automaker as a condition of any new compensation plan they may arrange for him. They also want a clear succession plan for management of the EV business. That is really wild that they're making this demand. They basically, they know Elon is probably on the way out. So they want to know who's the next in line. All right. So this is very interesting. And maybe the EV line just completely separates itself or something. Maybe it becomes a subsidiary, like how Google has like several subsidiaries under them, right? They have this is why they're Alphabet now. They have Alphabet as the top dog, as the main company, and then Google is just a subsidiary of Alphabet, right? So really, really interesting stuff. And again, if you're a Tesla holder or you own the stock, shout out to you. I tip my hat to you because I cannot deal with that kind of volatility, as I always say. You guys really are. You guys really do love roller coasters. Okay, moving on. Let me just check the chat real quick. Holy smokes, we got a lot of comments. I'm going to try to get through these comments and cut it up with you guys here in a minute. All right. Fed worried it could face difficult trade-offs if tariffs re-aggravate inflation. All right. This was from earlier in May. So again, this is kind of old news. We already know this. You had Jerome Powell already mentioned that they're going to keep the rates steady. They're not going to move. They're not going to budge, and they're going to take a wait and see approach. But the only important information in all of this is just some of the dialogue that they had. So Federal Reserve officials at their meeting earlier this month worried that tariffs could aggravate inflation and create a difficult quandary with interest rate policy. Okay, so basically the Fed is stunned. They're paralyzed. They can't do anything. Minutes released Wednesday show May 6 to 7 meeting of the FOMC reflected ongoing misgivings about the direction of fiscal and trade policy. Again, they don't know what to do because you have an economy that's doing really well, but you have tariffs that can potentially cause inflation. So what is the Federal Reserve to do, right? They don't know if they should lower rates. They don't want to lower rates and then cause more inflation, but they don't want to increase rates either. So the best thing to do is just take a wait and see approach. So with officials ultimately deciding the best course was to keep rates steady. Participants agreed that the uncertainty about the economic outlook had increased further, making it appropriate to take a cautious approach until the net economic effects of the array of changes to government policies become clear. Again, Scott Bessent always talks about this strategic uncertainty, and this is exactly what the Trump administration has caused. A lot of uncertainty, right? But they call it strategic uncertainty. So that even paralyzed the Fed, and the Fed's like, well, we're not even sure what this can mean. You have Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan that have also revised their forecast for a recession. At first, it started off 65% with the tariffs. And then, with the reduction, now they revised their forecast to about 35%, right? So again, nothing new under the sun, guys. It's just, they have to publish these types of forecasts. And, we take it as fear, doom, and gloom, but they're also managing, billions, if not trillions of dollars. So they have to, think about the people that they're taken care of. All right. Participants noted that the committee might face difficult trade-offs if inflation improves or if inflation proves to be more persistent while the outlook for growth and employment weaken. So that's really the two numbers that they're looking at is how's the economy doing? How's the jobs doing? Or more and more people getting laid off? And funny enough, I didn't show it to you guys, but in that first video clip with Jensen and Jim Cramer basically asked, like, okay, there's a lot of talk of AI replacing jobs. Like, what does that look like? And Jensen's like, it's a lot of stuff is coming, right? Do you really need a lot of low labor jobs? And when I say low labor, I mean this with the most respect possible. Okay. I'm talking like in the example that they use, they meant like a dishwasher. Like, because Jensen was doing dishes in one of the video clips. So he's like, do you really need a dishwasher? And Jensen's like, honestly, no, you don't. You can replace that with, automation. You can replace that with artificial intelligence. You can have a whole kitchen completely replaced with robotics and artificial intelligence. You don't need a whole staff anymore. It's getting to that point. There's all this talk. There was one CEO, and I watched it yesterday, but I forget the name of the person. But he's basically the first one to come out and say that, the administration, the current administration, doesn't want to admit it, but the reason why they're moving towards more precision manufacturing jobs and more higher tech, type of jobs, and they're not worried about, the stuff, the low end stuff, is because they know that artificial intelligence automation can replace up to 30 to 40% of the workforce in the United States, which would create a huge, obviously a huge unemployment problem. So very, very interesting. Again, AI is here to stay, and it's going to grow. All right. So, moving on, though policymakers expressed concern about the direction of inflation and the vagaries of trade policy, they nevertheless said that the economic growth was solid and that the labor market is broadly in balance. Okay. Though risks were growing that it could weaken and consumers were continuing to spend. Again, Fed doesn't even know what to do because by a lot of indicators, everything looks okay, right? Everything looks good. It's just, again, the tariffs really create a lot of this uncertainty. They don't know what the impacts are going to be. So I really think, again, over this current quarter, we'll see what real numbers come out and how companies, how the economy is actually affected by these tariffs. As it has done since last December, the FOMC kept its benchmark federal funds rate in a target range between 4.25% to 4.5%. Right. So that was it from basically the Fed. All right. We got some other news. All right. I might skip this piece. Shares of chip. Let me just go through this real fast. Chip software stocks sink on report of Trump ordered halt to China sales. This obviously pissed off China because, they're like, hey, I thought we had a trade agreement, and the United States sent a letter to two of these software companies, three of them actually, and said, hey, we're not, do not sell anything to China right now. And China was obviously not happy about that. Nvidia they weren't affected by this in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, this is just something, again, it's just a data point. I don't think it's really going to affect the stock market in all. I really don't think it's going to affect any of the semiconductors. This is more or less just a data point that China is not too happy with this. So this could probably aggravate the trade negotiations a bit. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of this. All right. Or maybe all the tariffs will get lifted anyways. And then, who cares? All right, so we got some news for crypto. All right, I hardly ever cover crypto stuff, but I wanted to put this in here because I found this absolutely interesting. All right, BlackRock, the biggest asset manager in the world, one of the biggest asset managers in the world next to Blackstone, issues a Bitcoin warning, says BTC source code could be rendered flawed or ineffective by quantum computing. All right. We do have some tickers that we're following. All right. I have yet to do a full deep dive into quantum computing, but you have IonQ, you have D-Wave, to just name two companies off the top of my head. Those two have been absolutely popping. If you want an ETF that follows quantum, QTUM or QTUM from Defiance has been a very popular ETF and has actually been doing really well. So if you want to take advantage of the whole quantum realm thing, those are some of the names you could look at. All right, so this says BTC source code could render it flawed or useless. The biggest asset manager, I know this is in pink, in the world, acknowledged the potential of a critical threat that could weigh in on Bitcoin in the future. In its updated prospectus for iShares Bitcoin Trust, BlackRock mentions quantum computing as its risk factor. Well, in the risk factor section, right? So that's interesting. Quantum computers are considered by many to be a potential threat to Bitcoin due to their theoretical ability to, in the future, override the cryptographic schemes that secure blockchains. All right. While quantum computers have not yet demonstrated the ability to come anywhere close to threatening Bitcoin, BlackRock says it, along with other technological advances, could render the flagship cryptocurrency flawed and ineffective. So just an interesting thing from one of the biggest asset managers in the world. And whenever they publish something, it's always good just to listen in and keep that as a data point, right? For your own thesis, your own investing theories, and so on and so forth. I mean, BlackRock wouldn't be BlackRock if they were bad at, predictions, right? So something to think about. They go on to say, in the past, flaws in the source code for digital assets have been exposed and exploited, including flaws that disabled some functionality for users, exposed users' personal information, and or resulted in the theft of users' digital assets. The cryptography underlying Bitcoin could prove to be flawed or ineffective, or development in the mathematics or technology, including advances in digital computing, algebraic geometry, or quantum computing could result in such cryptography becoming ineffective. In any of these circumstances, a malicious actor may be able to compromise the security of the Bitcoin network or take the trust Bitcoin, which would adversely affect the value of the shares. Moreover, the functionality of Bitcoin network may be negatively affected such that it is no longer attractive to users, thereby dampening demand for Bitcoin, right? That would be kind of wild if, let's say D-Wave came out a computer and it could pretty much break the blockchain or break into the blockchain or I don't know, figure some way in to be able to use it for malicious intent. That would, I think, honestly render Bitcoin almost useless at that point. I think there would be a lot of outflows. Again, this is all doom and gloom in theory, but it is still an interesting thing to kind of like look into. Again, nowhere close to there. Quantum computing still nowhere close. But again, for BlackRock to include this as a risk and for them to at least mention it, just shows that the industry for quantum computing is coming and is coming fast, right? Jensen Huang at GTC did mention he wasn't even sure that there was publicly traded quantum stocks or companies. So that, again, just shows that the industry itself is maturing extremely fast. Even if another digital asset other than Bitcoin were affected by similar circumstances, any reduction in confidence in the source code or cryptography underlying digital assets generally could negatively affect the demand for digital assets and therefore adversely affect the value of the shares. All right. So that was just really, really interesting. All right. Again, I'm not trying to spread the doom and gloom, but this was kind of an interesting thing because there is chatter, there is talk of quantum computing being able to break, the blockchain. So again, we'll see. We will see. All right, GameStop shares rises. Retailer meme stock buys its first Bitcoin batch, scooping up $500 million. All right, so now they officially are buying Bitcoin. Okay, they released some convertible notes that had like no interest rate. No, I don't think many people bought. I don't know if many people did or didn't buy. But yeah, GameStop, the meme stock is now buying Bitcoin. All right. GameStop said Wednesday it has officially bought 4,700, the same amount of Bitcoin that I think Strategy just purchased, worth more than $500 million as the video game retailer began its crypto purchasing plan in a similar move made by famous MicroStrategy. The purchase, its first investment in Bitcoin, was worth $512 million with Bitcoin's price of $108,000. All right. So that is, again, if you want to buy, I guess, GameStop, I don't even know what to make of this, honestly. I mean, more and more companies are doing this. You have the Trump Media. Excuse me. You have Trump Media that was we covered just earlier this week. They also are planning to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. So again, more and more companies are starting to adopt Bitcoin as their treasury asset. There was a website, and I wish I saved it, but there is a huge list of companies that are adopting Bitcoin into their treasuries or creating their own Bitcoin treasury. So it was a fascinating link. It had a ton of businesses, some in the U.S., some overseas. So it was really just, again, maybe this is the way companies are going to move forward to stay relevant, right? Imagine Costco owning their own Bitcoin treasury or something, or Starbucks, right? Because Starbucks actually was sitting, I don't know if they still are, but they were sitting on a huge amount of cash, like literally a lot of cash. They had a very low to modest debt. They're sitting on all this cash because with the Starbucks rewards card or something, it was like you could put cash in and you would get these points, right? But the cash was basically sitting dormant in Starbucks. So they could use that for whatever they wanted to. They could use that to invest. They could use that to reinvest. They could use that for other business, whatever. So it was really, really fascinating. So I wonder if, more companies like the Starbucks of the world, if they'll just start adopting Bitcoin as well. So just interesting stuff, guys. Like investing is just fascinating. Okay. We ran a poll earlier today, right? We ran a poll. Excuse me. My voice is starting to crack here. All right, so we ran a poll earlier. Do you think the tariffs will get rolled back? 63% of you said hell yeah, then the markets will moon. All right, and 37% of you said nope, the tariffs are going to stick. I'm going to probably agree with the 37% on this, and I'll explain why. yes, there is a chance that, this federal, injunction, I guess, or this federal, case could stop the tariffs. But again, this appeal is going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time for this appeal to go through, right? So while that's going, the tariffs will probably still remain in place. And by the time they even resolve this in the courts, because, the United States is so fast with, court stuff, really, really quick. I could see this lasting well into the tariff days, well past the whole, China trade negotiation with the United States. All these deals will be made before, they actually force the Trump administration to resolve the tariffs. By that time, all these trade agreements will already have been made. And not only that, the stock market probably would have already bounced by then. So again, I think even if they do repeal the tariff stuff, it'll probably be a moot point at that point. So hope that addresses that as best as I can. All right, guys, we're at minute 50. So I'm going to try to breeze through the markets, breeze through the portfolio updates, and then I'll chop it up with you guys in the chat. All right, so let me end this poll. So thank you guys for going through that poll. All right, so S&P 500, guys, we are down for the day, which is kind of a surprise. But we were down 56 basis points, which is kind of crappy. All right. But we had a really good run up yesterday. All right. The run up yesterday was really, really good. I think it was up like a 1.5% or so. The NASDAQ, all right, we are down 45 basis points. Again, same as the S&P 500. Actually, I think, yeah, so roughly the same, right? Roughly the same. But Nvidia earnings definitely popped, right? I think the market, well, it's pretty obvious the market was waiting on Nvidia earnings. So Nvidia earnings did really, really well, right? They did really, really well. Their shares absolutely popped after market. Gold, all right, down 1.14%. Again, there's a decent outflow of gold, and we use this as a barometer. Okay, we could see that gold is still the best performing asset year to date. Let's check Bitcoin, 15.38%. All right. So they're the second best asset year to date. So really interesting. All right. So we have gold, Bitcoin, and honestly, we have real estate. Real estate, I think year to date is up 26 basis points. All right. So we're doing all right there. Let's take, actually the S&P 500 looks like it recovered. Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that. I didn't even notice that. So, all right. We're actually in the green here. All right, excellent. Very excellent. All right. U.S. 10-year Treasury kind of hovering. Again, it went down just a little bit. I don't know what to make of this. I'm still waiting for more information or something to change. This needs to come down, of course. The REIT market, I use VNQ as kind of our barometer for a weather gauge to see how REITs are doing. They are up year to date, 26 basis points. For the day, they were kind of lulling up and down, but really the end of the day with 10 basis points in the red. So not a huge deal there. All right, guys, let's hop into the portfolios and then we will conclude the stream. Where is my portfolio? All right, there we go. Boom. Okay, let me just refresh this to make sure. Okay, so sitting at $103,000. All right, Nvidia popped like crazy after hours. You guys could see that spike. All right, Nvidia had a good pop. It had really good earnings, so that's why we see this right here. It had a really good run up. All right, PLTW starting to pop. I think that whole news with Fannie Mae it was probably behind this pop for Palantir. Chippy, the yield max semiconductor ETFs doing very well. Again, I'm very bullish on the semiconductor space as a whole. I did add to this position. I bought 5 additional shares of Chippy, so we're now at 200. And then we have XPay, nothing new or exciting or sexy with these, XPay or XDTE. All right, these follow basically the S&P 500. I am considering probably adding more to XDTE and XPay, to be honest, but I haven't pulled the trigger quite yet. But it is at the top of mind if I want to buy more shares. All right, so Ondas, I don't really talk about them much. They're a penny stock, but they're a partner with Palantir, and they have counter drone technology. I'm getting more and more excited the more I read about this company. So again, this is probably like a 2, 3, 5 year hold. Definitely worth, something for me at least to look into. It looks like we got paid some dividends. We have 100%, well, not 100%, but almost 100% in margin usage. Still sitting at $41,000 in margin buffer. And then I'm still low risk. All right. So all things exciting there. You guys can check out the whole margin strategy that I put out in case you guys are interested. Of course, be careful. Margin's a loaded gun. Don't shoot yourself with it. All right. Moving into the last portfolio, and then we will conclude the stream here, Well, I'll chop it up with you guys. Uh-oh. Oh, man, come on. Uh-oh. Looks like my password is expired or not working. Let's try one more time. Whoops. There we go. Sorry guys, a little technical difficulty here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Not gonna lie, my heart was pounding for a second. I was like, man, did I get hacked? Did I get hacked and did they take all my money? Like, not again. All right. So this is the M1 Finance portfolio. All right, guys. This is where I keep a bulk of the REITs and a tech-focused heavy ETF. All right, VGT. Just let me zoom out here a bit. So I hope you guys can see this. So REITs, again, kind of just lolling back and forth. They haven't quite recovered. They haven't really grown as much, and they keep falling back. We're hovering around like the $80, $90 range, or $88, $90 range. So hopefully, as V&Q continues to improve, all the individual REITs that I have will see better and greener days, right? There's some in here that probably need to get trimmed. I just don't want to do it right now because, again, they're still in a bear market. But I think in the future, I will have to rebalance this at some point because I think right now is a good time to probably rebalance them. And then, of course, the technology-focused ETF VGT from Vanguard. That one's just kind of going, just moving with the market, right? It's a tech-focused ETF. So, think of it as like a little more juicier than like a QQQ or a NASDAQ 100 ETF. And then we have BDCs, again, nothing exciting there, and a crypto ETF for Bitcoin from iShares, BlackRock. So that one's just sitting pretty. So that'll pretty much do it for this stream, guys. Let me go back and check the comments and answer any questions that you guys may have, or at least contribute to the conversation. All right, this is where you guys made fun of me for France or France. Let's see, tariffs already hurt the USA big time, says Urakai. Asia is cashing out on the opportunity. Goods cost more, so Asia is able to buy more US debt, US bonds with the extra money they make from tariffs. Good angle. That is actually an interesting angle. I know there's all this talk of China dumping U.S. treasuries, so we'll see. But we also had that treasury auction that just happened, and it went really bad. We had to actually increase the interest rate on those treasuries in order to attract investors. So that's interesting. J Gang, I'm happy the tariffs got blocked. I got call options going to the moon. A good few thousand coming my way tomorrow. Man, excellent swing. Congratulations to an excellent investment. Triple S, I'm new to investing and have a decent amount of cash, but I was waiting on the sideline during April's dip. Man, that's when you should have been buying, bro. That is when you should have been buying, is during that April dip. But all right, yeah, I mean, no big deal. I honestly, and I think there's a lot of us, we were so scared and paralyzed, we didn't buy as much as we should have in April. So I'm with you there. I actually calmed down on my purchasing in April because I was so scared. So interesting, man. Let's see. Water and after. Targeted tariffs equal smart. Blanket tariffs equal beyond dumb. I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Killer Poet asks, how can tariffs be illegal? They have been used in our entire history. I think, and again, going back to that law or whatever, that precedence, I think it's like you can use tariffs in a certain way versus blanketing the whole world with it. So maybe that's the reason. But if a ruling by a federal court of 3 judges was able to come to that conclusion, then, I mean, that's above my pay grade is what I'm trying to say. All right. Let's see what else we got here. What happened to Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI going public? I'm not sure what the latest update is with that. I haven't seen any new updates with that, but I definitely probably should look into that. Killer Poet says, not born in Germany, I think. Let's see. Killer Poet says, Elon said Tesla was a technology company over a car company. I'm in 100% agreement with you. I think it absolutely is. I mean, they have, like I said, some really excellent battery tech. They have some great robotics. They have their cars, right, which is just how they got their start. And then, of course, they have their AI and now the data center stuff. So, again, they're absolutely killing it. Let's see what else we got. Check it out. It says, I will believe it when I see it. Offshore help from India is supposed to replace many workers in the USA. There's a problem with quality and doesn't meet expectation. I believe you're referencing, the replacement of people with, artificial intelligence. And who knows? We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see because again, AI is here to stay. I can't imagine, like even for YouTube, like Google just came out with their VEO. These videos look freaking real, like absolutely real. You can have an Instagram influencer or a YouTube influencer, do a whole video, with all the arm movements, excitement, and all the charisma and all that stuff. You can have them do that, and it's getting crazy. And I would not be surprised if more and more AI videos start to pop on YouTube. As a matter of fact, even like for travel vlogging, there's a lot of AI videos out there. There's a lot of AI just, and you could tell because there's no feeling in them. Like you could tell it's scripted is what I'm trying to say. Like it's not someone actually talking, right? Let's see what else we got. Retire Big says, not sure if Bitcoin breaks, but if the US currently crashes, the world breaks for real. Absolutely. Everyone relies, like China and the United States, their economies are like, leaning on each other. If one falls, the other one's falling with it. China is a production economy. We are a consumption economy. So if one of us was to fall, it would definitely be bad, right? But China has their own problems. They're going through a real estate crash right now. But of course, the government is subsidizing it and kind of suppressing, the bad news. But basically, they had this massive developer basically go under. So they have their own problems. I mean, they have their own problems just like we have our own problems. Let's see. US dollar going down. What replaces it? BRICS, the euro. Maybe it's USDT, right? Maybe it's a stable coin. But I saw articles out there saying that there's prominent government officials, US government officials saying that the US dollar is not going anywhere. You have JP Morgan that just came out, one of their top dogs, I forget his name. He just did an interview and he was saying that, he believes that the US currency is and will remain the reserve currency of the world. Like it's not going anywhere, crypto or not, BRICS or not, or, China and the United States going to battle, not in an actual war, but, in a monetary war or economic war. The United States is not going to lose that reserve currency status of the world. Right. I can't see the government doing that. And that's kind of what Secretary Scott Bessent is kind of helping with. He's forcing the World Trade Bank and the IMF to basically not reorientate, but go back to baseline. Right. He did a whole interview with at the World Economic Forum, and he was saying that China, according to the World Bank, is still considered a developing country. So they get all the subsidies and everything afforded to them when they are not even close to a developing country. They are a developed +2 country, right? But again, they're getting all these subsidies and everything else. And now Scott Bessent is basically saying he wants to see that reset. So this is, again, a bigger game being played. It's not just tariffs to make money for taxpayers. That's not it. This is to maintain the United States hegemony and superpower in the world, both economically, militarily, and influential, right? So there's a bigger game being played. In my opinion, guys, of course, this is all in my opinion, all right? Nvidia rocks. Runs from margin and say no, says Killer Poet. Like and Carry asks, what is ONS? So ONS is Ondas Holdings. I don't really talk about them at all. I'll throw a blurb in here and there, but basically it is a company called Ondas Holdings. They have two subsidiaries. One is OAS, Ondas Autonomous Systems, which is the counter drone technology. They're becoming more, commercial, more governmental. I really, really like what they have ahead of them because all they need is just one NATO contract, and this stock, in my opinion, is going to fly. But they also have their networks piece, right? Ondas Networks. And this is used more for like railways, they call it multimodal transportation. So they have it for that, but I don't really follow that segment of their business. I follow the OAS segment of their business. So I really think this will have a good run, in my opinion. All right. Check it out. Says U.S. has a real estate residential problem. Supplies of housing rising. Florida, South, Mountain West. Yes, that is very true. Because of the interest rates still being so elevated, it's discouraging builders from building any homes, right? Or building any multifamily or anything else. They can't build because everything costs too much. So not only that, you still have all this supply from 2020 up to 2022 that just came online, right? Now Texas has a flood of new multifamily units that's getting absorbed into the economy. You have all these houses along the East Coast, right? The Sun Belt, the Rust Belt, all the way down to the South. You have on the West Coast, all these new buildings just coming online. And now they have to get absorbed into the economy. But yeah, nobody can build right now because interest rates are still so high. All right. Let's see. According to many YouTube channels, EV channels, China EV cars are more advanced and cheaper than US EV cars. You know, I will agree with that. I will absolutely agree with that because I've seen some of these EV cars like from BYD. And man, they absolutely smash some of the even luxury brands that are out there. Like brands like BMW and Mercedes. These things come just stock with all of that stuff. And I've driven a Chinese car. It was called a oh man, what was it called? It was made by Nissan, but it was like a Chinese collaboration or something. An Exceed, I think it was what it was called. It was called an Exceed, EXEED. This car, freaking cool, freaking phenomenal. It had all the bells and whistles of what you would expect in a luxurious car. It was really, really nice. Let's see. Like and Carrie says, have you checked out NV2 from Rex Shares? I have not, but there was someone else in the community that did mention these new shares from Rex Shares, so I need to check them out. Granite Shares also has their own stuff, so I am going to be checking out Granite Shares as well, and we'll see what comes of that. So Patrick Bennett says China technology beats EV technology from Tesla. I'm assuming is what you meant. I have no idea. I'm not a battery expert, but I probably wouldn't be surprised because I mean China is really good at copying, right? They're really good at stealing, and that's it. That's what they're really good at. They're not good at innovating. All right, in my opinion, they're not good at innovating. All the best innovation comes from America. This is why there's all this, kind of hawkish tone towards China, stealing people's IP, intellectual property. And these companies, they can't go after them. They can't sue them because China will just throw out those, or they'll get them stuck in court and never really fully resolve them. And then not only that, all these companies have to jump through hoops in order to operate in China, right? So they're good at stealing and copying, but they're not really good at innovating, in my opinion. It's too restrictive. Because we live in a free capitalist society, a free capitalist economy where innovation can grow in a restrictive, and I hate to say this, but in a restrictive, communistic, quasi-capitalistic free market that China has, it's harder to innovate because the Chinese government needs to be involved in every single little thing, right? They're involved in every business in China. It's not just, like you can create an LLC, you're in business tomorrow. You don't really need a whole lot of government intervention, but in China, that is not the case. They have to be involved in everything. Their intelligence agency has a firm grip on their entire country, right? Not to strike fear, right? There are some YouTubers who live out in China, and they talk about how peaceful it is, how great it is, and of course, I mean, China is a nice place, but again, it's just as an investor, right? From an investor perspective, if I'm going to bet on an economy, if I'm going to bet on a country, I'm going to place my money on America. I'm not going to bet against American innovation. So those are just my thoughts on that. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. So we're pretty much 7 minutes after the hour, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed this stream. I had a lot of fun on this one. This was really, really exciting. The whole Trump tariff stuff, Nvidia just killing it. Tesla, kind of pissed off at the world. And then you have Palantir that, again, I really think is going to make a lot of waves here in the future. They're going to have a lot of demand, right? I think the financial services theory or thesis is really sticking, right? I think they're going to break into more and more financial sectors, and they're going to absolutely dominate. And again, I'm not the only one that spoke about this, at least as far as I know. I'm sure there's others, but I knew that once they got that NATO contract, it was game over. Like once they got into NATO, because NATO is such a huge U.S. partner, and not only that, NATO, interoperability between the militaries is a big deal. Like it makes it easier for commanders to basically command troops, right? So interoperability is a big deal. That's why they share all the same kind of ammunition. But to have that now, to integrate that all into Palantir, you already have a U.S. force that's well, adopted to Palantir, and now you're going to have NATO that's going to be adopting Palantir. I mean, it was a no-brainer, right? And now just waiting for it to be adopted by other militaries around the world that the United States is partnered with. You have the Five Eye nations, right? I think it's New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, the UK, right? And Canada, right? So you're going to have those partners start to adopt Palantir. I mean, there's so much freaking demand for Palantir. It's going to get crazy, right? So hope you guys really enjoyed this chat, enjoyed this stream. I had a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you guys coming in, chopping it up with me in the chat. And of course, just being a part of this channel, being a part of this community. So with that being said, you guys have a great evening, a great rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. I look forward to having another stream with you guys and look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care.